From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Phoenix beat another record today. By 3, the official temperature was already at 116, and those record-breaking temps aren't expected to leave anytime soon. We reached 118 on Sunday, breaking the record of 115 set almost 50 years ago. Temperatures throughout the week are expected to peak between 115 and 120. Extreme heat is also being seen in other states, including California. An excessive heat warning continues in the Phoenix area until Wednesday night. The heat warnings have also been issued near Tucson and Yuma, as well as the Grand Canyon and Lake Havasu. Officials continue to encourage people to stay cool, stay hydrated, and stay aware.
The heat proved deadly for 3 people hiking and biking in Arizona, but that didn't stop some people from hitting the trails today. Cronkite News reporter Jawei Jha took us to Piestewa Peak to see how those hikers are handling the hot weather.
By 9 a.m., there was already 100 degrees at the Piestewa Peak. Although there's so many people decided not to hike, there are still some braving the heat. It's over 110 degrees outside, but there's still some people hiking. Why?
I feel like you can get a good workout in just going up the mountain instead of staying in the gym for an hour.
However, hiking in the heat is not encouraged by the city of Phoenix.
And really deciding if today was the best day or not to even take a hike.
But the heat didn't stop people from climbing the mountain. So the city of Phoenix brought cold water here and helped people prepare.
We want to make sure that they have plenty of water, that their skin is covered, so long sleeve shirts, light colored clothing. They're wearing a hat to shield their face. They're wearing sunscreen. They have good hiking boots on. In their pockets, they have snacks, but really a cell phone. So in case something happens on the trail, they can call somebody.
Hikers also had suggestions on how to stay healthy.
Probably bring like a water bottle that has ice in it, because the water was hot by the time we came down.
And don't run out while your water supply is halfway gone. Turn around and head home. Live in Phoenix, Jiahui Jia, Cronkite News.
Presumptive Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump made his 4th stop in Arizona Saturday afternoon, where he spoke in front of more than 6,000 people. Cronkite reporter Crandall Brantley covered the rally at Arizona State Fairgrounds.
Lines for the Trump rally are being formed more than 3 hours for the gates open. One church reporter told me she stood in line since 2 a.m. to be the first inside the Memorial Coliseum. While Republican nominee Donald Trump was speaking in Las Vegas, hundreds of supporters were already waiting for his arrival at the state fairgrounds. Saturday afternoon, the presumptive GOP nominee spoke in front of a passionate crowd that is confident about Trump's chances to win the general election.
What we want to come out is greatness in America, and we know that Donald J. Trump, our future president, will bring that.
Campaign volunteer Cynthia Love expressed her excitement for working towards a November victory in this battleground state. Love, along with campaign volunteer Lori Urban, said their biggest concern is the nation's economy.
You know, it's about the economy. I'm a small business owner, and I know that from my clients, they're not really feeling the economy surge right now.
The number one, I feel, is the economy, because I don't think people have gotten back to where they were in terms of their salaries before the financial crisis.
Approximately 6,000 people were in attendance, including Governor Jan Brewer, State Treasurer Jeff DeWitts, and Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Many people at the Coliseum came to the rally to hear Trump discuss protecting the Second Amendment, his economic plan, and his immigration policy.
I want stricter immigration. I'm for immigration, but legal immigration.
Call those thousands of people back and tell them we're going to continue to win.
Saturday was Trump's first rally in Arizona since he officially locked up the Republican nomination. In the broadcast center, Crandall Brantley, Cronkite News.
After hearing reports of violent protests and rallies across the country last week, the Valley was prepared to see commotion outside of the event. But despite the heat being at an all-time high, Valley residents found that both scenes were more calm than they had expected and prepared for. All hands were on deck to prepare for the craziness that could have come to Saturday's Trump rally here in Phoenix. Even motorcyclists.
Hopefully this is the kind of crowd that all wants the same thing and we don't have any disruptions today.
Riders USA, a local advocate group dressed in leather, came out to lend a hand to rally-goers for safety outside of the venue.
This is for peace. We're here for safety. We're here to ensure people's rights, and we're not going to allow people to come and turn over cars and burn flags and do things. And Arizona's different. And the Arizona event was different, surprisingly peaceful at both the rally and its protests.
Very peaceful. And it wasn't what I expected because this is my first rally.
Actually, people were really nice, so that was pretty surprising.
According to the Department of Public Safety, there was only one person ejected out of the rally and 4 heat-related issues. Just down the street from the rally at Encanto Park was a Trump protest that brought hundreds of people throughout the day, just like 18-year-old Monica Miramontes, who doesn't want Trump to be in the valley, but wanted to keep a message of peace throughout the day and election season.
Our America needs to be more open and welcome to diversity, and I guess we definitely need to strive for more equality to people of all races and backgrounds.
One Trump supporter and a Trump protester had a short, up-close and personal altercation.
The guy was yelling, but he wasn't throwing any bombs at us, right? He wasn't trying to stab us or anything. He was basically just trying to incite things.
According to Arizona DPS, there was security at the rally from Phoenix PD, Maricopa County Sheriff Department, and the Secret Service. There were approximately 6,000 people at the event, but there were no tickets to count for, so there will not be an official number of attendees.
Arizona's ranking for the overall well-being of children has moved up a spot. But despite the progress, there is still work to be done. Cronkite News reporter Joey Carrera spoke with a child advocacy group to learn more about how our kids measure up against other states.
According to the Annie E. Casey Foundation's annual Kids Count data book, Arizona has moved from 46 to 45 in this year's ranking of overall well-being for children. Notable increases come from 8th graders. Their math proficiency scores nearly doubled from 2015 to 2016. As great as that is, children in poverty, children abusing drugs and alcohol, and 4th grade reading scores are still major issues that need to be tackled in our state. Preparation is key to academic success, and many of the fundamental skills children learn to prepare themselves for their educational career stem from preschool. But the Kids Count report ranks Arizona second to last in preschool participation in the United States.
Children start kindergarten already behind, and many of them never catch up. No matter what their principals do, no matter what their teachers do, it's very hard to catch up. Dana Wolf-Neymark, president of the Children's Action Alliance, says not attending preschool is just a part of a bigger issue that impacts Arizona's kids. Right here in Central Phoenix is one of the areas of highest child poverty in the nation. And in those areas, the poverty rate is over 30%. So that means they're surrounded by poverty. They have very few role models. They have little access to all the kinds of community supports that help all of us reach our dreams. And poverty often creates a lot of barriers for kids to prevent them from succeeding. Neymark interpreted another message in Arizona's new rank. It means that those families, those schools, those child care centers need some extra support and help to overcome the challenges. Arizona only ranks ahead of New Mexico, Nevada, Louisiana, and Mississippi. In the broadcast center, Joey Carrera, Cronkite News.
One day after gun control proposals stalled amid partisan bickering in the Senate, a bipartisan group of lawmakers unveiled today what they hope is a compromise plan. Arizona Senator Jeff Flake was among those proposing the so-called no-fly, no-buy gun legislation. Cronkite News reporter Keisha Butts has the story from our Washington bureau.
The latest gun control compromise comes just over a week after the mass shooting that left 49 dead in an Orlando nightclub. And the bill got a powerful endorsement today from Florida Senator Bill Nelson.
I owe it not only to those families of 49, but I owe it to those families of people still in the hospital, some of which may not make it.
Senator Nelson spoke at a press conference where 4 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and 1 independent came out to support Maine Senator Susan Collins' bill to keep guns out of the hands of terrorists.
To people who have come up to me as I have been on South Orange Avenue in the heat of summer and have just been engulfed in tears as they hugged and said, please do something.
Collins' bill uses a smaller list of suspected terrorists than the Democratic legislation that failed yesterday. Her bill would ban gun sales to those on the no-fly list and a secondary screening selectee list.
We include a look-back provision that ensures a prompt alert to the FBI if anyone who has been listed on the broader terrorism screening database within the past 5 years purchases a firearm.
Blake is also a supporter of Collins' legislation. He said no one should buy a gun if they cannot get on a plane.
If it's too dangerous to allow you to board a flight, then it ought to be too dangerous to allow you to purchase a weapon.
Flake called this latest bill an attempt to put a measure on the floor that can actually pass. Senator Collins said she hopes her legislation can get a vote the beginning of next week. In Washington, I'm Keisha Butts, Cronkite News.
Phoenix Children's Hospital ranked in all 10 categories of the U.S. News and World Report's 2016-2017 Best Children's Hospitals for the first time. The hospital is the only one in Arizona to make the list. Phoenix Children's Hospital ranked near the top in 10 categories. This included being ranked 19th in treating kidney diseases and 20th in neurology and neurosurgery. They earned number 24 for cancer and 26th in the nation for heart surgery and orthopedics. The other rankings can be found on the Phoenix Children's Hospital website. Usually camera monitors are used to watch over office buildings or shopping malls, but Phoenix Children's Hospital has brought a more precious type of security camera to its tiniest of departments. Cronkite News reporter Christina Tatro saw how this new technology is keeping families feeling secure and connected.
Today I went over to Phoenix Children's Hospital where these new cameras are being used in order to see how it's bringing families closer together during difficult times. The NICU is filled with a constant stream of nurses, cries, and sirens. And also stress and anxiety for families and parents who feel hopeless because they can't hold their newborns.
A lot of times in the beginning, they're very sick and you can't do the normal things that you thought you were going to be able to do as a parent.
Phoenix Children's Hospital now has cameras over each bed in the NICU so that families can watch over their newborns from a phone or a tablet at all times if they have to leave the hospital. The cameras are positioned over each bed to get a full view of the baby.
If you have web access, you can see your baby in real time.
Shamira Cleveland and her parents have been at Phoenix Children's since she was born. She is now 4 months old. Her mom, Briannon, loves having these new cameras and says that her favorite thing to do is just sit and watch her for hours. She feels so much closer being able to see her daughter on screen at all times. The hospital received a grant in order to fund these cameras, and now that they've been successfully used in the NICU, they're going to see if they can go ahead and put them into the pediatric care as well as the cardiovascular care units. Live in the control room, Christina Tatro, Cronkite News.
This morning, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors officially adopted its new 2017 $2.3 billion budget, impacting county jails and courts, among other things. Also at the meeting, good news for a wildlife refugee center in North Scottsdale. Reporter Christina Tatro spoke with county supervisors on why keeping this center is so important.
Southwest Wildlife Conservation Center has been around for 20 years, and it's confirmed today that it'll be around for 20 more. A refuge for hundreds of wildlife animals wasn't sure if it was going to have to close its doors after the county discovered that it was running without a permit for group tours, which was a big moneymaker for the organization.
The issue had to do with the way that they were, the permitting provided to them to operate, and it was a temporary construct that didn't suit their needs.
All in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? Hearing none.
At today's Maricopa County Board meeting, the supervisors approved a new permit to keep the refuge open and operating for another 20 years with these tours.
Been able to help in a big way an entity that's a nonprofit that serves not only just the Phoenix metro area, but also the entire state as it relates to treating wildlife.
Hundreds of people reserve tours to see the safe haven for wildlife each month, especially school groups. County Supervisor Steve Chukri said today's decision to keep it running comes with a long-term benefit.
They're going to allow from time to time some tours for school kids to come in
and allow the center to continue to care for injured and orphaned animals.
They treat it from what the federal government might bring to their door to state government to local government.
While the Conservation Center has worked out the issues with the permit with the county, it still is in the middle of a lawsuit with neighbors who complain about the dust and the noise. At the digital desk, Christina Tatro, Cronkite News.
Congressional gridlock in the House and the Senate isn't a new phenomenon. Cronkite News reporter Megan Finnerty in our Washington bureau asked political experts why it's not uncommon these days to hear the phrase "do nothing Congress."
Democrats who staged a sit-in on the House chamber today are trying to force a vote on the stopped gun legislation. But in Congress, getting a vote doesn't always mean given action. A CNN poll released Monday said about 90% of Americans support tighter gun legislation after the Orlando shooting. Lawmakers in both houses of Congress wanted new legislation, but when given the chance to pass something Monday night, they couldn't.
This Congress doesn't seem to be able to do much.
Norm Ornstein from the American Enterprise Institute says he isn't surprised.
After the latest set of atrocities, you still can't see majorities being put together. And it's a reflection, I think, of two things. The first is our political system is built to move slowly. The second is we have an almost unprecedented, at least in our lifetimes, level of tribal division and dysfunction in government.
Marjorie Baker, Executive Vice President with the People for the American Way, says inaction isn't just in gun legislation.
Where what we see is, again, opposition from very powerful moneyed special interests that don't want to see Merrick Garland given fair consideration because they don't want him to sit on the court and they don't want the balance on the court to change.
Ornstein said it's not just big issues.
Even the issues that shouldn't be so tough, like infrastructure or making technical adjustments in the healthcare plan, getting a budget done, they can't do that.
Part of the problem, experts say, is that much of the legislating is done for political gains, a point Senator Jeff Flake made when introducing a compromise gun bill Tuesday.
What you see here is an effort not to have a vote that will simply allow each party to use a cudgel to beat the other party with, but rather to have something that will actually pass.
But Baker said voters share some of the blame.
So the way out of it is for people to vote and vote for people who are running for office who really want to get serious reforms in place.
With the elections looming, there's not much time left for Congress to act, with about another 2 weeks in this session before they take off the rest of July and August for conventions and campaigning. Live in Washington, I'm Megan Finnerty, Cronkite News.
The effects of Parkinson's disease can take a toll on those who have it, but now there are therapeutic dance classes to help ease symptoms. Cronkite News reporter Joey Carrera went through the graceful moves of the classes to see its impact.
There aren't any tutus or pirouettes in Dance for Parkinson's Disease classes, but there is some fancy footwork, hope, and determination. Ed Coyoli is a classically trained dancer.
The idea of being able to get into the studio just attracted me, and I love the atmosphere here.
About 3 years ago, he says he felt a tremble in his arm. That tremble was diagnosed as Parkinson's disease. Since then, he's gotten back into the rhythm and uses dance as a means of therapy.
I'm really happy that I did it because it loosens up my body, it improves my attitude, just the whole realm of things. And I don't think I could get through the week without having at least one class.
Ballet Arizona hosts weekly Dance for Parkinson's Disease classes instructed by Debbie Braganza, who is a classically trained dancer herself.
For control of our body all the time, to do everything specifically to a technique or the way the choreographer wants it to be done. That's why this helps with Parkinson's, because we train the same way that they need to be training as well.
Coyoli's graceful moves have already paid off.
Physical therapist said that my return to dance helped me improve almost better than any other single activity I was involved in.
And for Braganza, whose father has Parkinson's disease, improvements mean a lot.
These people come through the door each week that's a win right there for me, that it means enough to them to come and take class every week and socialize. They get along beautifully, and it's a nice little community.
Maintaining a positive attitude can go a long way.
Focus on the solution. Get up and do something. I don't care what it is, but get up. Don't sit in the chair. Don't become depressed. Don't resign yourself. Get out and fight.
Dance for Parkinson's disease classes are held every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. The classes are $5 for participants and free for caregivers. For more information, go to balletaz.org.
Our top story: in a 4-4 deadlock this morning, the U.S. Supreme Court was unable to reach a majority consensus on United States versus Texas. The ruling continues to block the expansion of President Obama's deferred action programs. Cronkite News reporter Alexis Solari spoke with participants from the Arizona community members who are angered by the ruling.
Crandall, many Arizona community members in support of DACA Plus and DAPA are upset after the U.S. Supreme Court ruling this morning. Protesters of the ruling gathered earlier today to express their strong disapproval of the decision.
I say we are, you say power, we are power, we are power.
Arizona community members from all over the state, from organizations like Mi Familia Vota and Puente, gathering this morning to protest the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that in effect blocks President Obama's DAPA and DACA Plus programs that looks to help keep millions of undocumented immigrants from being deported.
We hope for a decision that would favor those families. However, this morning, we heard that the Supreme Court of the United States did not side with our families.
Demonstrators initially held signs outside the office of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Phoenix, but later took to the streets to protest the ruling, blocking off part of Central and Palm Lane. Police arrived on scene to manage the demonstrators as they blocked the street. When Arizona immigrant advocates heard of the Supreme Court ruling, they weren't ready to admit defeat.
I guess it's mixed emotions, angry, sad, but I mean, we just have to keep fighting.
It was a lot of frustrations among our community, especially because this has been a long fight.
Signs says advocates and families will fight back the best way they know how.
The next step for us is to make sure that we fight back through the most effective way, which is the power of our vote. So we are going to mobilize the Latino community to vote for elected officials that align with our values.
The power of voting may be the community's greatest tool, according to Signs. He says he and the Latina community are looking forward to the November 8th elections for change. In the broadcast center, Alexis Solari, Cronkite News.
In Washington, many also gathered outside of the Supreme Court to hear the decision. Cronkite News reporter Megan Finnerty was at the court and brings us their reactions.
With the end near for the Supreme Court's current term, crowds have been turning up regularly, waiting for decisions on key cases. But many left disappointed today. The mood outside the Supreme Court today was passionate but turned to pain as a decision in U.S. versus Texas brought many to tears.
You can see many people are so sad. For me, it really is very sad. It's hard to describe this moment. But the only thing that I can say is that we are going to keep fighting.
The decision came as a shock to some who said they now have to wait for justice in the lower courts.
We just heard the decision from the Supreme Court and we are truly disappointed. This comes at the cost of mostly women and families and children.
The White House proposed the expansion of DACA in 2014. It would defer deportation for an estimated 5 million people in the United States and about 140,000 in Arizona. Because the Supreme Court could not reach a decision, a lower court decision blocking the program stands.
I mean, right now I can be deported at any time, and that's something that, many people don't really think about.
Many who were here today have been coming to the court for weeks in anticipation of a decision that left them disappointed when it finally came today.
This is a very, very sad decision. It's hard to believe the justices are not making justice. This is really unjust for our community.
The deportation case was not the only one out of Texas the court is considering. Other activists today were waiting to hear a ruling on Texas abortion clinic restrictions. About half of the protesters were here today for DACA and DAPA, while the others were railing on the abortion case. Despite the split decision, one Tucson native who was here said she hasn't lost hope.
I'm from Tucson, Arizona, and I just wanted to tell everybody that we're still going to be here. We're still going to be fighting. Nobody, just don't give up.
Many of these groups will be back at the Supreme Court Monday, when the justices are expected to hand down the last rulings of the term, including the Texas abortion case. Cronkite News will be there too. Live in Washington, I'm Megan Finnerty, Cronkite News.
What do you want to be when you grow up or after you retire? Well, there's a test for that. Reporter Christina Tatro shows us the questionnaire designed by an ASU professor that helps you in every transitional stage of life.
Vocational interest tests that tell you what your likes and dislikes are have been around for decades, but one Arizona State University researcher has made a very specific test to not only help employers find good employees, but for you to get the most out of life. Terrence Tracy has been studying and working in psychology for almost 40 years and has developed a way for people to be happier and more productive, not only in work, but in life. It's called PGI, Personal Globe Inventory. It's an online test.
Help people choose occupations, occupational directions, majors.
It's made up of about 230 questions that ask your likes and dislikes in different scenarios or situations. It then compares your interests with about 1,000 jobs that match your personality based upon 6 different characteristics.
A few things that we do that are less important than work. You spend more time in work than you do in anything else in your life.
The closer your likes and dislikes are to the characteristics of the job, the happier and more productive you will be. Tracy says that it's best to use for high school and college graduates, middle-aged working class, and also those about to retire, anyone in a transitional life position.
I don't want to just jump into college and take a bunch of classes and graduate and not know what I'm going to do next.
Making it easier so that life doesn't pass you by. The test is being used across the world in countries such as Italy, Singapore, Japan, Germany, and Brazil. And Tracy says that though it works great here in the U.S., he's working on bringing the test to third world countries to help them build their infrastructure. You can find the test online at pgi.asu.edu. Christina Tatro, Cronkite News.